Hi, so this is the last part of 1984. It's going to be on my channel. I definitely liked this part way better than part 2. If you haven't seen parts 1 or 2, watch that first. Um, and I'm going to give a warning. If you guys can't handle me talking about things like torture, you should probably not watch this video because this part has a lot of torture. So if you can't handle subject matters like that, um, then probably click off this video. Even though I appreciate the view, please do me the view. All right, please. I'm betting. But anyways, so in the last part, Winston got captured by the Thought Police, and he's now being sent to the Ministry of Love, presumably. He is now in the cell. They haven't fed him. They haven't given him water, and he cannot tell how many days or hours have been going on. So he's also being tortured by light deprivation. So in normal circumstances, a person like this would go crazy. And he is forced to stay still. If he moves, then the telescreen yells at him so much that it ends up hurting his ears and his mind. So he has to stand completely still. And we see some recurring characters. We see the father, or a father. His name is Parsons. In part 1. I didn't talk about him that much, but he is basically the devout father. He's very loving of his kids, although Winston thinks of him as an idiot because he doesn't realize because he believes everything in the party, and how his children, who are even more devout to the party, are the greatest things to have ever happened, and that his children caught a spy. And that father's in there because apparently he was mumbling treasonous things about the party, and his children overheard it, and now he's being sent to this room. So obviously Winston was correct in his assumption that the children would turn against him, because it has happened before in the story, and has happened in real life too, where children would give up their parents to state authorities, even if they weren't treasonous, which you can assume that Parsons, being very devout to the party and to Insat itself, was probably not saying things in his sleep. It's the closest thing I can say about this is like the witch trials in America, where it's literally just hearsay, and you get executed for it, essentially. Yeah, at the very end of chapter 1, we see O'Brien, the guy who Winston thought was on his side, and how they're a part of the Brotherhood. And he asks if he was caught, and because he's in the room with them, and his reply is he was caught a long time ago, essentially saying that yeah, he was never part of the Brotherhood. Yeah, we learn about a different room, not the holding cell that they're in, but a different room. And in this different room, nobody wants to get in it. There were some people who are aware of this room, but they would rather be shot than to get near that room. There was a guy in the book who haven't seen before, but he was being dragged to that room, and he was begging for a bullet. And in the holding cell itself, it's filled with all different types of people. It's filled with proles who can get off with minor sentences, or in this world, minor, in that they won't go into the room. But then there's people like Winston are who committed treason and are probably going to die, and that nobody wants to talk to, because if you talk to these people, then it seems like that you would also be executed. But O'Brien leads him to a place, and he tries to enact doublethink, because he holds up his hand, and he asks, how many fingers is this? If you remember, at the very beginning of the book, Winston, in his diary, is saying how freedom is the ability to say 2 + 2 is 4, and that tyranny is saying how the untruths are truths. And he tries to enact doublethink, and Winston says that no, this is 4 because it's an undeniable truth. And they strapped him on this contraption, and they basically shot him a lot. Another part of torture, because the starving and stuff is only one step of this torture. But yeah, I'm gonna describe it as electroshock therapy. Although that's kind of inaccurate, but that's the best way I could describe it. And each time he says that this is 4 and not 5, he gets even more shot. And he frankly doesn't know what to say to O'Brien, because O'Brien is clearly trying to torture him and to make him think that this is 5. But, it's clearly not, and he can't say that he is because he doesn't believe in it. But eventually he does say that he believes in it, but O'Brien doesn't believe him, so he shots him even more, and the voltage increases after a little bit. I think it starts at like 20%, and then ends at 80%, and I'm assuming 100% means almost certain death. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can kind of imagine how much pain that he's in. But yeah, they shot him over and over. Then he intellectually says in his mind that this is 5. But the Ministry of Love keeps him. We don't know why yet, but he's in a nicer cell now. Like, he can actually draw and and by nicer, I mean he's not yelled at constantly by a TV now. He's in a cell. He's still getting light deprivation, and how in that room it blasted light in him, so everything hurts. But yeah, he intellectually believes that this is 5 or 3, depending on what the party believes in, because that's doublethink, having 2 contradictory things and them both being the truth. But the party, more specifically O'Brien, who, if Big Brother is the face of the party, like, because everybody, stuff's in 1984, I think of Big Brother. Big Brother's always watching you, and Big Brother loves you. If Big Brother is the face of the party, then people like O'Brien are the brain of the party. Like, this is what he is, the amalgamation of the party, and he only exists to serve the party. They bring him into the room again, because since Winston doesn't know this yet, but they torture him even more, and they tortured him so much that they eventually stop torturing him, and then they show him a mirror, and how, at the beginning of the story, conditions are awful, but, he still had his teeth, still had some of his hair, although a little malnourished, in my mind anyways, he's still alive. He can still do stuff, normal activities. How it's described is it's honestly painful. Like, I recommend reading what they say. I hope if you are watching these videos that this at least gets you interested in reading it, or that you've already read it. Yeah, they describe how, it is described how almost all of his teeth are gone, and O'Brien even pulls one of them, just easily, like immediately, to just torture him. Like he has almost no teeth left, all of his hair is gone, and it looks like that, in that he lost a lot of weight. I can't remember how much he lost, but it was to the point of, it was almost to the point of death. Like how I would imagine Winston right now is only slightly better than a person from Auschwitz. It is painful to read and imagine. And the most interesting part about this entire book to me is that how they describe they get into an argument about the spirit of man. In the book, Winston does not believe in God, and neither does O'Brien. In socialist and communist societies, you didn't. If you they persecuted people who believed in such things, and also you can assume it's the same thing, because even though to a certain extent you can read old things, it is not encouraged, and the party seems to, it's heavily discouraged, and it seems like that that people watch you more because they think that you're having treasonous ideas. So the spirit of man, and that, and also I could describe it as in the Renaissance of humanism, where it's not that we're here because of God, or that we do things in order to help God, but we do things because we are humans, and that we do it for ourselves, and that we can progress, and that we can help humanity progress by learning about natural sciences and truths. And that religion has very little to do with it. And that humanity's good is due to humanity, and that humanity's evil is due to humanity. It's not because of Satan, or because of God, or because you do it because it's the right thing to do, or just anything like that. It's because we are the greatest. Kind of hard to describe, but that we are able to do the greatest kindness to things and for the planet, and the greatest evils on the planet, and that only you can decide on which one it is. O'Brien wants to ascend, or in my opinion, descend further from that, where the only reason humanity exists is for the party, and nothing else. All right, you are a drone, and 2 + 2 does not equal 4, equals 3 or 5. You fight who the party wants you to fight. You are a cog in a machine, and a boot tramples on any other thought for as long as the party exists. Now, it's also described as one of the most anti-human things possible. Humanity can't progress when, for most of our history, that's what we try to do, progress as much as possible. In 2020 cents, I can say that it's probably better than it was in 3000 BC. All right, it's even better before that. Of course, it's not linear, like how people living in the Roman Empire had better medical stuff and food, and stuff like that compared to the medieval kingdoms in Europe at the time. but we gradually get better and better and better, and that our beliefs also change during that time. He wants humanity to be as stagnant as possible because the party is the best, and that he is a fanatic. He believes that the torture that he's doing against Winston, who is the representation of the spirit of man, who believes that that truth is possible, that it exists, and that you can find it, you can prove it. It is not ideological. But O'Brien definitely disagrees and is one to brainwash Winston into doing so. Yeah, that by far, in my opinion, is the most interesting part about this book, is the conversation about the spirit of man. And O'Brien's, I want to say that it's somewhat hypocritical, because as I said previously, the spirit of man and how we can do the greatest of kindnesses or the greatest of evils. This is just an example of the greatest of evils. He's not ascending or descending into or away from humanity. He's just being a part of it. This does not, I mean, it grows the party, but the party, if this is his idea of the party going away from humanity and being its own thing, it doesn't look like that's the case. It's still ruled by humans, by human flaws, human beliefs, human desires, and yeah, it's just by far the most interesting part of this book. I think I liked that conversation, which is about, I want to say, 2 paragraphs if I remember correctly, more than the entirety of part 2. So that by far was the greatest part in part 3, in my opinion. Well, maybe aside one thing, but that was definitely an interesting conversation they had. But yeah, they torture Winston even more, and he doesn't know what to do. He's already intellectually agreed with O'Brien that 2 plus 2 equals 3 or 5, but he doesn't believe it in his heart about it, or in his spirit. So they torture him more and more and more and more, but they torture him, for the spirit. But he also loves one thing. He hates or dislikes or only slightly likes a couple of things, but he loves one person, and that's Julia. And he, out of instinct, because he's been tortured for so long and so much, that once they try and put a cage of rats near him, because that is his most greatest fear, is rats, and how he could be eaten by them. He immediately denounces Julia, and then they basically release him, because now in his heart he's got nothing left. He has nothing left besides the party, and if he intellectually already agrees with the party that all his feelings are gone, essentially, then what's left? The party. And in the last part of this book, he goes to the same cafe that the previous loyalist leaders in either part 1 or part 2 were in, and he feels nothing at all. Like, he's by the party, he's not a person anymore. And the closest thing I can describe him is a mindless drone waiting to be executed, even though he gave up everything for it, and that he now loves Big Brother. This is a real, for 1949, this is I think, yeah, this was 1949. Animal Farm came out in 1945, yes, this came out in 1949. For a book coming out in 1949, this is a really, it gets a lot of stuff psychologically correct. Like it kind of predicts Stockholm syndrome, because Stockholm syndrome, I don't think it was a thing yet. I think that that is an interesting thing to look up, as if we figure out what Stockholm syndrome was at this point yet. I don't think we did. I think that was a thing. I know the story of it, but I can't for the life of me think of what year we we diagnosed people with that. But yeah, I would give this book a 7 out of 10. That's, it's basically on par with Animal Farm, just because I would put it higher than Animal Farm, but Animal Farm simplicity does it wonders. In this book, it kind of does the opposite. He says so many things, especially in part two, and it gets annoying after a little bit. Like, especially with the, like, for what I said for part two. If you haven't seen that yet, I mean, part two really downed this movie, in my opinion. It could have been like an 8 out of 10 for me, but it's just not. Yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10. But yeah, I don't believe that societies like these can exist for centuries, or as long as humanity's around, according to O'Brien. Because I don't believe that any nation or any ideology lasts for forever. You know, it we as humans try to progress as long as possible, as much as possible, even to the detriment of ourselves and with the environment. And we can't be, if nations or people are stagnant, then something else, an outside force, will eventually overcome those people. Um, Greatest example I could give, in a very messed up way, is how the Europeans, they advanced technologically with things like guns. So it became really easy for them to uh, colonize and take over Africa. That can be applied intellectually too, with how the French Revolution, how they saw that the monarchy was not helping them, and that it became stagnant, and that they were all poor, and that they were all starving, and so they overthrew the monarchy. And to this day, they're now, I want to say, on their fifth republic. Um, yeah, this is a really interesting book. I know I said that for like the third or fourth time. I mean, you guys should probably keep a counter. I just write a couple of hash marks maybe, and just tell me how many times I said that. But yeah, it's just really interesting to think about. Honestly, if I mean, I hope you guys comment about it. Um, I mean, the closest nation today that we have that will be closest to 1984 will be North Korea, because they're both, I mean, INSOC slash English Socialism 1984. North Korea is a communist state that stuck in like the 1950s, except for its nuclear capabilities. And how everybody there's starving, but nobody. I don't see a nation like North Korea, or specifically their ideology, lasting. I'm gonna say even minimum, or yeah, I'm gonna maybe 300 years, which seems like a long time, but I mean cultures of like the United Kingdom have lasted. I want to say, ooh, 1,300 years. I know they've had different different people colonized them. Man, I'm getting on a random tangent. I'm sorry, but yeah, yeah, it's just really interesting. What unfortunately brings this book back, in my opinion, is that it focuses more on how totalitarianism is bad and evil, but not the story. Like, like what made the story, in my opinion, better is about the spirit of man. That's both ideology and a story standpoint. I thought that was really interesting. Like it went with both details. Meanwhile, Julia seems to only serve one point, and that one point is so that at the very end, Winston can say that she and him were traitors, essentially, and that to hurt her and to not hurt him. Like, I don't know. I really didn't like part two. It gives like a bad taste in my mouth, essentially. But yeah, like I said, I give this book a 7 out of 10. I'm real. If you guys have made it this far, I am really curious. I have A Brave New World, and I have All Quiet on the Western Front. If you guys liked these series of dystopian novels, then Brave New World is probably what you guys will want to look at next. But if you guys like my more historical stuff, then maybe I should read All Quiet on the Western Front. But yeah, if you guys have made it this far, which thank you. Please subscribe if you haven't. Maybe give me a like and comment on what I should do better or what you liked about it. I mean, honestly, I would appreciate it if you guys talk to me about like this book. If you guys have read it, or if you haven't read it, or yeah, if you haven't read it, then hopefully these at least parts of this have made you want to read it. But yeah, the spirit of man in this book, I don't know, it's really interesting because that is the closest thing in a book that I've ever read that explains my belief system the best. Because I'm not a religious person. Sorry, it's just how it goes. But yeah, the hypocrisy of O'Brien's interesting. I mean, he's the most interesting character, in my opinion. Not even Winston. Yeah, I just really want to see what you guys think of this. That's all. But yeah, thank you for watching. You guys have a good day now.